Atlanta, Georgia. Bus stop. Noon. They laughed at the man before they even saw his face. "You lost, old man? Where's your tank, General? Shouldn't you be in a nursing home?" The voice that carried above the crowd was sharp and arrogant. Officer Bradley West, a young cop with a perfectly polished badge and a look of smug authority. His sunglasses reflected the city street like a mirror, but his attention was fixed on a single figure standing quietly near the bus stop. The man was black, in his 60s maybe, wrapped in a faded Marine Corps jacket and wearing a scuffed baseball cap pulled low over his brow. His hands were in his pockets. His breath was visible in the chill, but he stood completely still, watching, waiting. Bradley West took a step closer. "What are you mumbling about? Talking to ghosts, old man?" Laughter erupted. A few teenagers had their phones out, already filming. One of them zoomed in, giggling. "Y'all, look, Atlanta's got a new war hero. Dude probably thinks he's in Iraq or something." No one moved to stop them. The man didn't respond. He just exhaled slowly and reached for the zipper of his jacket. What happened next changed the tone of the street like a snapped wire. The jacket opened with quiet precision, revealing a worn, well-preserved set of medals pinned carefully to the inside. The Purple Heart, the Navy Cross, and at the center, gleaming, unmistakable, the Medal of Honor. Silence hit the crowd like a shockwave. The phone cameras stopped mid-laugh. The teenagers lowered their arms. Even Officer West blinked and took a hesitant half-step back. The man finally spoke. "Name's Ronald T. Black, United States Marine Corps, retired." His voice was steady, unflinching. The kind of voice that didn't demand respect. It commanded it. Officer West cleared his throat. You were in the Marines?" Ronald's eyes didn't waver. "I led a rescue mission in Fallujah, pulled 6 hostages out of a collapsed building under fire, took 3 bullets doing it. But that's not what this is about." He took a step forward. "You stopped me because of my skin, not because of anything I did, not because I looked suspicious, but because I looked like someone you didn't want to be seen near." The officer's mouth opened. No words came out. Behind them, the teenagers who had laughed now stood frozen, their phones forgotten in their hands. One of the older women at the stop covered her mouth. "That's Ronald Black. I've seen his name. He's on the memorial downtown." At that moment, a dark SUV pulled up fast to the curb. A man in uniform stepped out, Senior Lieutenant Daniels, West's superior. He glanced from the growing crowd to Ronald Black, and then to West. He didn't say a word. He just took West's badge from his chest and stepped back. "Officer West," Daniels said firmly, "you're suspended. Immediately. Go wait in the car." Bradley West's face went pale. He turned and walked without a word. Daniels turned to Ronald and extended his hand. "Mr. Black, I apologize, on behalf of this department and this city." Ronald didn't take the handshake. Instead, he looked out at the crowd, at the eyes now wide with recognition, with regret, with shame. Then he looked back at Daniels. "Don't apologize for him. Fix the system that lets him carry a gun without knowing what this medal means." And then he walked to the bench and sat down. No fanfare, no speech. He just waited for his bus. The crowd parted silently. Phones were still recording, but now no one was laughing. Atlanta Evening News, 6:05 p.m. The anchor's voice was calm, but her eyes told a different story. "Breaking tonight," she said, facing the camera with barely concealed tension. "A disturbing incident caught on camera this afternoon at a city bus stop. A decorated Marine veteran, wrongfully profiled and humiliated by a local officer, before revealing a service record that silenced an entire crowd." Then came the footage, Shaky phone video of Ronald T. Black unzipping his jacket. Medals gleaming. The moment Officer Bradley West took a step back. The silence. And then, the apology that never came. The video spread like wildfire. Within hours, it was everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit. The hashtags trended before dinner. Respect Ronald Black. Hero not threat. Fix the badge. CNN picked it up before midnight. MSNBC ran a segment called The Face of Dignity. Even Fox News spun the story, awkwardly calling Ronald a misunderstood patriot. But Ronald, he didn't watch any of it. He was home, sitting in his small apartment lined with framed photographs, Marines in uniform, his late wife's smile, a folded American flag in a triangular case. The news droned in the background, ignored. His phone buzzed constantly, calls from journalists, lawyers, city council members, military groups. All ignored. But outside his building, the city wasn't ignoring anything. The storm builds. At the Atlanta Police Department, the mood had shifted. Officer West sat in a cramped office, staring blankly at the floor. His badge and service weapon were gone. His phone had over 3,000 notifications, none of them supportive. The internal affairs investigator, a woman in her 50s with a no-nonsense look, slid a thick manila file across the table. "Want to explain this?" she said without warmth. West frowned. "What is it?" She opened the file. Dozens of citizen complaints, filed over 5 years, most marked dismissed. "Seems you have a pattern, Officer West. Excessive stops, disproportionate to demographic ratios. You've been warned before, haven't you?" West shifted uncomfortably. None of those stuck. The investigator leaned forward. They didn't, but they do now. Meanwhile, across town. Ronald Black sat in the mayor's office the next morning. He didn't want to be there, but he came because the mayor had called personally, twice. A tall woman in her early 40s, Mayor Lana Pierce looked exhausted but earnest. She didn't pretend this was just PR. She knew the city was burning with questions, with rage, with shame. "Mr. Black," she began, "first, allow me to say, I'm sorry." Ronald nodded once, but didn't speak. "I watched that footage," she continued. "You handled it with dignity. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't escalate. But I know what that moment cost you." Ronald looked at her, eyes calm but sharp. "Number you don't know." The mayor swallowed. "You're right." Silence stretched. She cleared her throat and continued more softly. "I'd like to offer you a seat on the City Veterans Council. You'd be in charge of oversight, policy recommendations, especially as they relate to veteran treatment, public services, and police relations." Ronald raised an eyebrow. "And what makes you think I want to work for the system that ignored me until I made headlines?" The mayor didn't flinch. "Because I think you care about those who don't have your medals, or your voice." She pushed a folder across the desk. It was thinner than West's, but heavier somehow. "Read this," she said. "We've had 3 black veterans file complaints of mistreatment in the last 2 years, all dismissed." Ronald didn't open the folder, but he did pick it up. That was enough. The public speaks. By Friday, rallies had formed. Not protests, not yet, but gatherings. Veterans in uniform, students, church leaders, community activists, all standing outside the courthouse holding signs that read, "It shouldn't take a medal to matter. Stop judging by color, start judging by character. Ronald Black equals American hero." One of the teenagers who had filmed the video, Jamal, 17, stepped up to the microphone during a vigil held that evening. His voice shook, but he spoke anyway. "I laughed at him. That man, That hero, I filmed him like a clown. But he didn't get angry. He just showed me who he really was. And it changed me." Behind him, Ronald stood in the crowd, watching quietly. No camera crew followed him, but those nearby gave him space, like he was made of something sacred. Backlash Officer West's father, a retired sergeant, gave an interview on local radio. "My son isn't racist. He just made a mistake. Everyone's acting like he's a monster." The radio host didn't push back, but the next caller was a Vietnam vet named Earl. "I served with Ronald Black's brother," he said, "and I'll tell you what, mistake or not, your son humiliated a hero. That's not just a mistake. That's a rot in the badge." The line went dead after that. The mother. That Sunday, in the City Hall chamber where Ronald was scheduled to receive a formal apology, a surprise figure entered the room quietly. Mary West, Officer Bradley's mother. A white woman in her 70s. Strong posture, thin voice, eyes that looked like they hadn't slept. She stepped forward, past the reporters, past the veterans, until she stood in front of Ronald. People held their breath. Mary West took his hand gently and said, "My husband served in Vietnam. He taught our son better. I failed him. I'm sorry." Ronald looked into her eyes for a long moment. Then he nodded. And that was all. The letter. That night, Ronald finally sat down to write. Not a statement for the press, not a speech, just a letter. To a group of students at Westfield High, where the school had asked if he might visit and speak, he wrote, "Dear students, I've lived through wars in other countries and quiet battles in my own. The truth is, you don't need to earn medals to earn respect. You shouldn't have to wear a uniform to be treated like a human. I didn't want to be noticed. I just wanted to wait for my bus. But now that you've seen me, really seen me, I ask only one thing. See the next man too, especially if no one else does." He signed it. Ronald T. Black Veteran, American, Witness. And the bus? On Monday morning, City Transit unveiled something new. Bus Route 22 had a new name. Veteran Black Line, gold letters on black. His photo mounted inside, alongside a quote, "Respect not the uniform. Respect the journey." Ronald was invited to ride the first trip. This time, he didn't wait alone. Jamal was there. So were his friends. And this time, when Ronald stepped onto the bus, the entire crowd stood and applauded, not with sarcasm, not for the camera, but because dignity had returned to the stop, and none of them would ever forget how it got there. 1 week later, Atlanta, morning. A new sound echoed through the city's streets. Next stop, Ronald T. Black Veterans Line. Honor never rides alone. It wasn't loud, it didn't blare, it resonated. Deep, clear, and calm, like the voice of the man it was named after. Every time the number 22 bus pulled to the curb, that message played. And something about it made people sit a little straighter, made them look around, made them see each other. It was more than a name on a bus now. It was a quiet revolution. The Police Training Academy was holding its monthly ethics seminar. Normally, it was a formality. Trainees half listened, half scrolled through their phones. But not this time. This time, a new name had been added to the curriculum. The screen at the front read, "Case Study, the Ronald Black Incident, What Respect Should Look Like." And seated in the front row, Officer Bradley West, now former officer, dismissed, no badge, no appeal, not for the incident, but for the pattern. He didn't speak as the instructor replayed the footage again. Didn't flinch when his voice echoed through the speakers, sarcastic, mocking. "What are you mumbling about, old man?" The words sounded different now. Ugly, immature, small. The instructor, a former Black SWAT commander named Marcus Hall, paused the video and turned. "You all want to wear this badge?" he asked the room. A few hesitant nods. "Then know what it stands for before you clip it on." The man in that video, Ronald T. Black, bled for this country. He saved lives in Fallujah, and he stood taller with medals on his chest than most of you ever will in a uniform. Bradley didn't look up. Hall continued. He was humiliated by a man who saw color before character, who saw age before honor, and that man will never wear the badge again. Silence. Then Hall's voice dropped lower. "This badge does not belong to cowards." And with that, the screen went black. The conference room at City Hall was cold and stiff, what you'd expect from government buildings, but the nameplate in front of Ronald made the whole room feel warmer somehow. Chairman Ronald T. Black, Veterans Oversight Council. He didn't wear a suit, just the same Marine jacket, same cap, same quiet dignity. Across from him sat city planners, outreach directors, and 2 assistant DAs. They'd all been briefed. This man wasn't here for ceremony. "We've reviewed the complaints," one of the DAs began. "There's clearly a gap in the way returning veterans are supported and treated, especially veterans of color." Ronald didn't interrupt, but he did raise a hand. "I don't need you to admit it," he said. "I need you to change it." They nodded. He opened a folder and passed it around. Inside, handwritten notes, names, numbers, stories. Not his. Other veterans, men and women who hadn't gone viral, who didn't have medals, just pain, just silence. "This is who you forgot," Ronald said. "Start here." It was Tuesday afternoon when Ronald's doorbell rang. He wasn't expecting anyone. Outside stood 3 of the teenagers who'd mocked him at the bus stop. No cameras, no bravado, just eyes that had learned something. One of them, Jamal, held out a framed sketch. It was of Ronald, sitting on the bench, jacket open, medals shining, but drawn like a statue, like a monument. "We drew this in class," Jamal said, voice soft. "We want to give it to the bus station, for Route 22, so nobody forgets." Ronald took the frame gently. He looked at them all. "No one's forgotten," he said. "You're just starting to see." In Ronald's building, Melanie was known as the gossip queen, always watching, always talking. She hadn't said a word to Ronald in over a year, until now. She knocked on his door with a bundt cake and nervous hands. I saw you on the news," she stammered. Ronald arched an eyebrow. My husband was in Desert Storm. He never talked about it. I guess I didn't understand what that silence meant, until now." He took the cake. "I didn't need you to understand," he said. "I know," she replied, "but I want to try." He nodded. That was enough. Back on Route 22, the new audio announcements played at every stop. But what most people didn't know, what no one expected, was that the voice wasn't AI. It was Ronald's. The city had asked. He'd agreed, reluctantly. So now, as the bus pulled up to each corner, Ronald's steady, warm tone said, "Next stop, John Wesley Park. Don't forget your courage. Next stop, Pine Street. Every journey starts small. Next stop, Ronald T. Black Veterans Line. Honor never rides alone." It comforted people, inspired them, and sometimes made them cry. Officer Daniel's letter. Weeks passed. Ronald received a letter in a plain white envelope, hand-addressed. Inside, "Mr. Black, I've worked this job 27 years. I've seen good men break, and broken men do good. But watching you stand still while the world judged you, that was something I'll never forget. Your dignity changed a city. Maybe it can change a department too. Thank you for showing us what quiet strength really looks like. Lieutenant Daniels. Ronald folded the letter and slid it beside his medals. He didn't need a wall full of honors, just a city that finally saw. 1 year later, spring returned. Atlanta felt different. And on a clear April morning, a school bus full of second graders pulled up next to Route 22. One little girl pointed at the gold letters on the side and asked the driver, "Who was Ronald Black?" The driver smiled. "He's a man who showed the world what respect really means." And as the girl watched the bus roll away, she noticed something strange. All the adults on the sidewalk had stopped talking. They were listening. Because as the veterans line pulled away, Ronald's voice echoed once more. "Don't judge by what you see. Look deeper, walk further, and never forget those who stood tall when no one was watching." And the city? The city listened.